Hello, friends and colleagues, and welcome back to my vlog. It's been a crazy couple of weeks at work with shows. For anyone that is in the Northeast, in the live events world, you know that the spring and the fall are our two busy seasons, and this is pretty busy this season. Not complaining at all. I will never complain about being busy ever again, but it's definitely been really difficult to try to record, and it's just been so crazy. I haven't been able to put one of these real vlogs together, and I find myself sitting in the car waiting for my wife, who had some surgery today. She's had a rough couple of years, and she's getting some things fixed. During COVID, right before COVID, I always say during COVID because that's how it lined up, but right before COVID, she had a seizure disorder. She was cutting hair one day and just had a grand mal, fell right on the floor. We had no idea where it came from or really what caused it, other than she had really low levels of potassium and a few other things which set off seizures. And a few months later, she had another seizure, and while she was driving, and had a head-on collision with another car. Thankfully, no one else was in the car. That's the first thing everyone asks. Is everyone all right? It was just Amanda, and she wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so it was pretty bad. And she essentially went into the steering wheel with her waist and her hips. Her head actually hit the windshield on the passenger side, and she broke pretty much everything that you can break in your leg, in your hip area. And they've been repairing it for the past 5 years. And traveling through COVID and navigating what was a very difficult time financially for us. I had never been unemployed before, and I had never had to deal with not having health insurance, and also not really depleting savings because you're not working. It was a super difficult time, and there were times where we were showing up for pre-op appointments for her leg and for other things that they were fixing, and they were like, "Oh, your insurance has been canceled, so you're no longer covered, and we can't do the surgery." Um, those were difficult days for us to deal with. So here we are 5 years later, and she's still getting some work done, and she's still getting some repairs, and it's taken a while. So I figured, why not spend some time talking to you? And I don't necessarily want to talk too much about the accident, or really get into um, that, just how rough that was. Other than saying, thank God. Thank God she survived. It did. Everybody that saw the car afterwards said to us, sorry for your loss. And my kids and I'll never forget being at the tow pickup lot, whatever, where they brought the car. I'll never forget the guy, sorry for your loss, and he was really sad because me and my kids and Lexi were there, and he just assumed I lost my wife and they lost their mom because of how bad the car looked. And we all genuinely looked at him and went, "It's just a car. It's not a big deal." And he was like, "She survived?" And we were like, "Oh yeah, she survived. She's a mess, but she survived." Um and then that we realized quickly how lucky we were, because he was a responder. He was there to tow the car, and I'm sure he saw the condition she was in, um, and then we knew this was she had some angels looking out for her. So, but we were also lucky that COVID was just about starting, and other than financially, we couldn't have been luckier that it worked out that I didn't have to travel and I didn't have to go to all these places for work. and we were locked down. So I really got to stay home and take care of her, take care of Lexi. The kids got to stay home. Everybody remembers what lockdown was like, and it's a little bit about what today's episode was going to be about. Was the next phase in my life, which was getting into the sports and entertainment vertical, and doing a lot of the cool things that I'm doing now, but also the very beginning of COVID, and what that was like, and navigating some of that. So COVID was absolutely terrible, and I can't believe some of the things that happened. But also a lot of good things came out of it. I met a lot of very great people because of it. I got to be involved in a lot of national coalitions, and uh, uh, we got to work with lobbyists, and we got to really shine a light on the live event industry during that time. And I'm very thankful for a lot of the things that came out of COVID, which I think is the best way to look at it. A lot of crap happened, and there were a lot of back steps, and a lot of kind of retargeting that happened because of it. Some delays in career path and things like that. But ultimately, I feel like I'm in a better place, and I hope that a lot of other live event professionals are in the same boat, and not struggling still. That was a tough time. So we ended off the last vlog post talking about my transition from the product management team to the PSAV sports and entertainment team, which started as a few people within the company, mainly led by Eileen Valois, that we were going to try to take the PSAV hotel model of in-house AV and try to apply it to other types of venues, what we called at the time non-traditional venues, or non-traditional revenue, which is the NTR that you see on my LinkedIn profile, or sometimes you'll see me hashtag NTR. It stands for non-traditional revenue, or a non-traditional venue if you see NTV. And what we did was we started a group while I was still in the product management team that was essentially a non-traditional venue task force of sorts, that we met regularly and had calls, and we had members from all over the company that kind of represented different divisions to figure out how to make this successful, come up with a plan, and then we had to present that plan to senior leadership. So for about a year, maybe a little bit more, might have been more like 18 months, we had to come up with the plan. We had to come up with what the structure was going to look like with job descriptions. We had to essentially determine and alter any PSAV SOPs, or standard operating procedures, to this new division within the company. And that part was amazing. That part was so much fun. And Eileen is a very passionate leader. And one thing that I hope is woven through all these episodes is that in each real moment in my life where there was some growth or some change, or some element of me moving up or moving on, and attaining something, there was a great mentor and a great leader. So for the sports and entertainment years, that leader was Eileen. She was awesome. She was a great manager, a great boss. I really enjoyed the the style of the fact that she just trusted that I would get things done. Very similar to Matt Johnson. There was a lot of, I'm not going to micromanage you. I need to make sure that I'm getting my stuff done. We were both doing other jobs while trying to create this. And the mutual respect was something that I never knew that I would be in a position like that where someone would just trust me to get things done, and I wasn't going to have daily reports or things like that where I was going to have to write something out and send it in. I also learned to be extremely detail oriented um, at an executive level, so that I could have the ability to bullet point out for really high level executives, what the important things of a project or of a an executive summary might be, but also being able to dive really deep when they pressed, or if someone really wanted to dive into a certain topic or financials or whatever. Eileen was great at teaching me how to be prepared in those instances. But anyway, we started with this advisory committee to build this division and to build this line of business out, this new vertical, and it was awesome. We had an SVP sponsor in Craig Hill, who we kind of ran everything through to make sure this would float. We had a lot of other folks like Todd Spencer and Derek Coleman, who were in specialty services. We had um, some RVPs and things like that, that regional vice presidents that would assist and just hold us, keep us honest, hold us accountable with some of the things that we were saying, because this was going to be different than just a normal hotel AV um, type of business. There was going to be a lot of high end production. There was going to be a lot of things that weren't your normal hotel AV line of business. So we needed to make sure that we were good and we were prepared so that we could roll this out. And what's interesting is Eileen had already uh, managed to get Fenway Park as a venue for us before this ever really started. When it was still just an idea, she had managed um, to bring them online as a venue in the Boston region, and they reported up through the normal ranks. Um, the director of event technology at Fenway reported up through the RVP, and we used that property as a way to get all of the data that we needed to put this together. What would work, what wouldn't, what were some of the things that the internal events department at Fenway was going to need. We talked about Carrie Campbell back in the National Sports Forum video, um, and the amazing things that she's done at Fenway Park. I mean, they've become synonymous with private and special events over there, thanks to her and her team. But if you're doing so many events in a venue like that they build you a ballroom in the outfield, you're doing something right. So it was great to partner up with them and be able to figure out what's going to make this type of business tick, and how will this work. So flash forward a few years after they signed that agreement. I think that was 2013, and the Red Sox won a World Series that year. We started to really pitch this sports and entertainment um, division around 2016. So we had some data and some time under our belt to figure out how to do this, what the differences were. We had a pretty good sample size. From there, um, once we had an idea, we started to reach out and do some business development. And this is really where my sales and biz dev hat, or really the fire that I have now, came from. It was sparked from working with Eileen and going out and finding, how are we going to get into this industry? Who do we need to know? Who do we need to partner with? Who do we need to be involved with? And it was as simple as Googling, who are people that run stadiums? Who are people that do fan engagement? Who are these people? And uh, we got very close to the National Sports Forum, who were essentially all of the sports marketing and fan engagement side of the business. And we got very, very close with the Stadium Managers Association, which are all of the venue operators and everyone that's in charge of the day-to-day, the safety, the keeping the lights on and making sure that the parks are operating. And by working with both of those two sides, as well as reaching out to some of the leagues, we were working with MLS very closely. Um, just by reaching out and saying we're interested in learning more about your industry, we'd like to know how we can partner and how we can help. We're building something, and they were there with open arms. The sports business and entertainment business are you'd think are fairly locked down, but they were very welcoming, and they were very open to some new solutions. I mean, there are definitely a lot of people that are set in their ways in that industry, and especially in sports, but they were very interested to hear what we had to say and what we wanted to build and what that was going to look like for them. And we took all this information and all this data over about an 18-month period. Everything that we did with our advisory committee, everything that we did with some of the councils, RVPs, other people that we had kind of run this through. I had given the presentation to Matt Johnson because he was still my boss on the product management team for a while, just to say, what do you think of this? What you don't really know what I've been working on with Eileen, but what do you think? And I got Matt's blessing. He thought this was a great idea, a great path for the company. And we presented, this is, Eileen's style was to really go big or go home. So we wanted to present this to the executive committee, essentially the C-suite, all the SVPs, and a few other folks that were included at the time in that group. We wanted to present this out, but we didn't just want to do it in Schiller Park, which was the home office for PSAV. We didn't want to do it in our branch office in Dedham. So Eileen reached out to TD Garden and said, it was Annie Kennedy, and she said, essentially what we think we could do in here is a private event, like a corporate event at the Garden. We'd almost like to do a test run, but with our executive committee to pitch this as a business plan, as a business idea. And they were coming together for their either end of the year or quarterly. I can't really remember. It was like end of the summer. And they would have these meetings regularly anyway. We just said, hey, could you do it this one in Boston? And in true Eileen fashion, she went big, and we got the TD Garden to give us the Legends Club for the day. We used the Putnam Club for meals and for breakfast and lunch. And then we used the Legends Club, which is massive, for our presentation. But also, when our presentation was done, they did the rest of their leadership meeting for the rest of that day in that space, which was, I'm sure, amazing for them. And the night before, we utilized our partnership with Fenway Park and the Red Sox to get a suite, have all of the executive team that was coming out to the meeting. We got to sweeten them up a little bit, and we got to go to a Sox game in a suite, have some good food, have some drinks, get to hang out. The Sox were great at that time. So I think we watched them spank, I think it was the Rangers. I can't remember I have pictures. I can't remember off the top of my head who they played, but we also got to have, welcome to Fenway Park, PSAV on the scoreboard. And like, they were just into it. And then the presentation went phenomenal. I bought a brand new suit. We left it all on the table. We presented for about 2.5 hours. The concept, we did probably 30 to 45 minutes of Q&A and walked away feeling like that was a great presentation. It was a victory, and that we were hopefully going to run this new division in a few months. And kind of went back to doing my product management thing. And this, I don't want to say this went on the shelf, but we paused for a little bit until I was actually at a golf tournament for AudioBiz, who is our big Shure partner at PSAV. That's who we bought all our Shure microphones from. They were our rep firm. They do a big golf tournament every summer, and I was in Schiller Park. I was in Elgin actually for that, Illinois, and I got the call as I was getting in the Uber to the golf course from Eileen to offer me the position of National Director of Sports and Entertainment, the first one. Um, and we were off in a way, and this was the new thing, and it was super exciting because we were blazing a new trail, and we were creating our own path, and we were doing things that I never thought I'd be able to do in a billion-dollar company. I just never thought I would get to have say, or I would get to build or create my own path in a place like that. And it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of days and nights of doing two jobs, the sports and entertainment job and the product management job. I'm sure Matt was pissed at me about maybe missing some deadlines or maybe not being as present as I could have been, but ultimately I felt like I was doing the right thing for the company and for myself and for the team, and um, and it was great. And we were officially in our roles for I think about 18 to 20 months, and during that time we were just doing business development. We were out pounding the pavement trying to get our name synonymous with sports venues, with entertainment venues. We were trying to get in front of anyone that would listen. We sponsored a few events like the Stadium Managers Association. We did some stuff for NSF. We did a couple of really cool events for NSF. Maybe I'll put a little music montage into this vlog so you can see some of the things that we did. Um, but we were really planning on kind of 2 years of business development and then starting to execute after that. We had Fenway Park in our back pocket. We had that revenue, um, and that data to work with and to use in our internal financials. And we knew the kind of parks that we wanted to go after and the other venues. Can't really talk about them, but we had 5 or 6 in our sites that we were working on, um, as well as teams and leagues. And there were special projects that we were being brought into because of our footprint, and our production footprint, and the things that we could do. Um, we were asked basically, can you do this? Can we get a sample, and then we'll talk. And we knocked a lot of those out of the park, pun intended. Um, we had a lot of great success in those one-off events and those kind of samples. And then as everything was really starting to take off, the company was going through a bit of a sale or an acquisition from one ownership to another ownership, and the new ownership um, wasn't super interested in having a sports and entertainment division. I think that and this is all kind of just what I've heard over time. Um, they had ownership of another company that was in that vertical, and I don't think they necessarily wanted to have two companies that they felt were vying for the same pie. So we were a team of just a few people. It was easy to kind of get rid of us, or move us into other positions and just dissolve sports and entertainment. So it wasn't for lack of trying. It definitely wasn't for. I don't think it was a failure in the sense that nobody was interested in it. There's still today a lot of interest in a provider that can provide that level of value on site, for audiovisual event technology, production, fan engagement, activation management. There's still a lot of people that are wondering, when can we start to see that again, or when can we get back to that? And I think, I think I'm still in contact with so many people in the sports industry that know, as soon as I've got a product ready or a service ready, um, we'd like to hit the market with it. But for right now, it's just trying to rebuild that with different companies and figuring out if it is still a viable thing post COVID with venues. Surprisingly enough, during COVID, everybody was trying to do their events, their private events at large venues like that because they were spread open and a lot of them were open space. And we actually saw a big spike in non-traditional venue events. And for someone like me who's a bit of a specialist in that area, COVID was easy for me to get through, business wise. Once we started to get once we started to figure out where we were, what we were doing, and what some of the limitations were going to be, call it the end of 2020 into 2021, then you know things started to get a little bit easier for me to go out and sell this concept to people. But my time at PSAV had kind of run its course at this point. We were at 18 years of my career, 17 and a half years of my career. There wasn't a place for me to go. My position had been backfilled in product management. It had been 18 months since I took the director of sports and entertainment job. So when this sale was happening and things were going on, we were trying to figure out where I would land. Eileen, luckily, was so good at her job. She kind of got back into doing what she was doing. She actually, I think, became the leader of the team that she was on before. And I ended up having to leave the company for a little bit, and just until I could figure out what I was going to do. Great friend of mine, Matt Roselle, had just left PSAV a little while earlier, and he was like the East Coast VP of operations for Rentex. And I had put it out there that I was looking for something. I basically became a project manager at PSAV for the last month that I was there. Once they had dissolved sports and entertainment, and that was kind of like, to me, it felt like a big step back. That's basically the position that I was in 2010, when this whole journey started down product management, doing more corporate stuff, getting more well known in the live events world and in the product world, and then sports and entertainment. And then bam, 8 years later, I'm back doing that job. I don't know. It just kind of hurt. So Matt called me and said, I need a general manager to run Rentex Boston. He was looking for someone to kind of course correct and get the culture going in a way that people were happy to come to work and maybe rebuild a little bit. So I said, yeah, that sounds like something I'd be interested in doing. And I took that role, and it was definitely interesting. It was different. It's the first time I'd worked for another company in 18 years. I had no idea that this was how PSAV was going to end. And so it was a little sour grapes, and I maybe wasn't the most friendly or professional because of that, because I was still a little pissed off. And I had a great time at Rentex. I went there for essentially 6 months, and it wasn't wanderlust. It wasn't anything like, screw these guys, I'm going to go work somewhere else. And Rentex isn't a competitor by any means to PSAV. If anything, they're one of their biggest partners. And I got to go. They kind of cleaned house where the GM and the assistant operation, or the operations manager, Zach, I can't remember what your title was, but Zach Buller and I essentially started within the same 2 weeks, and we just started over. We were just like, let's interview everybody, let's review everybody, let's review what we're doing here, who's happy doing what roles do people have. Let's create some efficiencies. Let's hire the right people that we need to. Let's maybe performance plan some people out that just don't want to be here, and let's make it a good place. Let's make it a fun place to be. So I transitioned right into that role. Um, and it, like I said, it was tough. I mean, I was a little heartbroken because of the blood, sweat, and tears that I had put into my career at PSAV. I thought I would be a lifer, and it ended very unceremoniously. But then a part of me said, "This is what it's like in the big time, kid. You know, like you're just one day you could be all it could all be over," and it was. Um, which definitely affected my personality going into Rentex. And anybody that knew me during that 6 months probably thought I was an asshole. Um, but I used that opportunity to get some good experience, to get some reps, managing a very large team, managing an operation, a regional operation, working with the sales team and the operations team to not have an us versus them mentality, to kind of tear down that wall between ops and sales. Um, and I had a great 6 months there. I met a lot of great people. I got to impact a lot of people's lives. I feel like I left that office better than it was when I got there, which is really the only thing you can ask for. And I prepared Zach Bowler to take over for me. That was I don't think I thought that would ever be a long-term job. I think in the back of my mind I always knew I'll be here until PSAV calls back. And PSAV called back, and um, essentially there was a need to have someone come back and have their finger on the pulse of the sports and entertainment business that we had been selling, potentially grow it at a smaller rate, called something different, have it not be its own division, still fall within the hotel division at the time. And I said, that's great. I'd love to do that. I'd love to be a part of that. Eileen wasn't really going to be a part of it, but was going to have some dotted lines. And I was going to report to the local regional manager, but I was still going to have some kind of national things to do. And all in all, uh, it was a call that I was hoping every day was going to happen, and it did. And like I said, I was at Rentex for about 6 months. I knew that it was temporary in my head. I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. I think that mindset um, hurt my relationships with some folks that were legacy Rentex. There are some people that I'm still friends with and I still talk to this day. There are some people that I hired that I still talk to this day. And there are some people that have left Rentex since that I still talk to this day. I still see them at Infocom and LDI, um, and I totally respect everybody there. And I feel like that was a great, that 6 months felt like a year, but not in a bad way. It felt like we just got a lot of work done in that time. And then when PSAV came calling and said, we'd love you to come back and do a lot of the things that you were doing, but maybe less on the business development side, maybe more on the operational event execution side, I said, sign me up. And that's a good place to kind of, wrap this up. So I did end up going back to PSAV in 2018. I signed back up. I think it was about November 2018. So I think I was in, yeah, I was at Rentex from April to the end of October, beginning of November, and then I started at PSAV again as a regional director of operations, which was kind of like a step down from our VP, but it was the only way to have me manage properties but not be on property at the time. So I worked out of the branch office, and I helped oversee Fenway Park. I helped oversee some of the other properties that we were trying to sign and win. Um, and and ultimately did some things for the region as well. I covered some properties for during renovations. A property has to close. but still someone has to be there to make sure inventory is good and make sure if there's little pop-up events that have to happen or whatever, or IT related things that, the PSAV person is there. So I filled in some properties that were either closing and we kind of, had to get some gear out of there, had to do some inventory that were closed for renovation or whatever. And I had a great time doing that. I loved the people that I worked with at PSAV, which is now Encore Global. Alex Brahms he was a great leader for me because again, he was there to answer questions if I had them, but he also was like, "Here you go, man. You're an adult. You're a professional. Go do your thing. And if you are doing something that I feel like I need to talk to you about, I'll talk to you about it." And that never really happened, but I like that management style. That works well with me, and I think we did well together. And ultimately, it was kind of the sports and entertainment thing. Round two, um, there were some personnel changes, and there were some people that thought, "Hey, we could get this going again," and I thought, "This is great," and then it didn't happen, and there were some other people that it just kind of blew up in my face again about a year later. So um, Eileen had transitioned to another company called Production Resource Group, or PRG, and she had left soon after I came back, and went over there, and I'm kind of giving you the 30,000 foot glazed over version of the story, because I don't know all the details of why people left or did things that they did, but I know Eileen left and she went over there after some time. And I had reached out and just said, I'm very frustrated. I got brought back to do some of the sports and entertainment stuff and breathe a little bit of life back into it and keep it going. And it's just not happening. I'm babysitting properties, and they want me to teach other people how to do the things that we did, and ultimately not have me manage the stuff that I was being brought back in to do. And she said, "Well, um, there's a place for you here at PRG." And I said, "That would be amazing. I've got a crazy amount of respect for PRG." And a couple months later, a couple interviews later, I ended up moving over to PRG and leaving PSAV almost a year to the date that I came back in November. And November 2019 was an exciting time. 2020 looked like it was going to be this amazing year. Um, I can't believe the opportunity that I had in front of me. The day that I started at PRG was the sales meeting for the entire company, and I think we were in Palm Springs. Um, I can't remember what property we were at, but the entire sales force from PRG and VER, because they had just acquired VER, were all together in one big ballroom together, and um, it was amazing. It was great to be a part of that company and that culture, even if it was only for a few months. Because if you're doing the math in your head, I started in November 2019. COVID happened just a few months later. I was actually on a flight coming home from Port St. Lucie, Florida. We were doing some stuff for the Mets, the New York Mets. Their practice facility is in Port St. Lucie, and during spring training, we were doing some of their uh, the player stuff that they do during the season that they show on the scoreboard and that they do. We were assisting with some of that during uh, the preseason, and my flight home was Friday the 13th, March 13th, and by the time I landed, I had about 40, 50 emails saying all these tours had been canceled, all these events were being canceled, conventions were being canceled. Um, this COVID thing was real, and events, big shows were canceling. And we were going to have some pretty difficult meetings next week. Um, so I really only got about 3 months to be a sports and entertainment liaison. Um, my role wasn't really sales; it was a little bit in business development. I mean, I had some really great relationships that I had built at PSAV that I think Eileen wanted me to forge into the PRG days. And I wasn't a commissionable salesperson, so my job was to augment the other salespeople within the company and try to help them win more. But also, um, my title was director of market strategy, and I actually got to see all of the systems and the CRMs. Um, so I was actually, part of my job was to determine, who are we bidding against? Are we bidding against ourselves for certain shows? Because sometimes we're a third or fourth party, and there might be 4 or 5 production partners out there that are bidding on the Super Bowl halftime show, for instance. And I could go through orders and go, oh yeah, this person's bidding on this production partner who's bidding on the Super Bowl halftime show. This account executive is doing it as well, and then this account executive is doing that as well, and then we just kind of have a call and say, all right, guys, let's sharpen our pencil. Let's stop beating each other up, because it seems like we're going to win it either way. And that was a fun job for 3 months that I got to do that. I got to meet a lot of really cool people that I still talk to this day. Um, John Davidson, who is he's got his own agency going right now, but at the time he was kind of bringing esports to PRG, and he's one of the founding members of the Esports Trade Association that I'm a member of and that I go to. We still keep in touch about that as a topic, but I met him at PRG. We worked together. We tried to keep our jobs going as long as possible, until inevitably the call comes, and Eileen had to call me and say, we got to furlough you. There's just no revenue coming in, and I knew that I would get that call because I was probably one of the last people hired in 2019 before all of this debacle happened. Um, so it sucked, but you know, like I said at the beginning of this, my wife had just had her accident. We just had Lexi. She was only a few months old. Um, it was um, it was really bad timing, but also really good timing at the same time. And I was heartbroken that I was basically going to have to start over. I was unemployed for the first time. I was going to need to do some real figuring out where I was going to be and what I was going to be doing, but um, a lot of uncertainty. And I put myself out there a lot. I did a lot of work for some friends during that time while I was furloughed that were hey, I've got a couple of things that you can do, or um, some contract stuff. The guys over at Innovia had started uh, a hybrid slash streaming virtual event platform. I went over and worked with them for a little while. I had known Mike and Simo for a very long time at PSAV. Um, they know I needed health insurance for my family, and I needed some sort of income to pay for the house. So Mike and Simo added me to their team for a little while. Um, uh, Ali Vafa from PSAV as well reached out at one point and said he had some kind of contract for hire stuff at Smart Source. He was the new CEO over there. So these things kind of contracted each other, and I ended up surviving most of COVID thanks to friends and allies that I had made along the way, and people that saw the value in me and thought, hey, can you sit and do some coding, or can you sit and render some videos, or can you do this, or can you just go out and cold call people and try to get some business for us during this unprecedented time? And I was willing to do all that. So I think that's a great point to wrap this up. The sports and entertainment early COVID year time frame, and I think the next episode will really play into COVID, the Live Events Coalition, the Mass Live Events Coalition, that whole period of time, and then we'll basically be caught up. We'll be at the 4 wall years, and where we're at now, and the stuff that we're doing, and hopefully I can get a lot of you on here, and we can talk about your career path and how you got to where you are, what your dreams were, what did you want to be when you grew up, where are you, and have some fun with this. So hopefully this one wasn't super depressing for everybody. Um, I realized starting with, hey, I'm in a hospital because my wife's having surgery, and then talking about, being laid off, being let go, positions being dissolved, COVID, this is a bit of a downer episode, but I'm here to say it all ended up great and positive, and I'm very happy with where I'm at. And we'll go through the COVID adventure together in the next episode, and we will hopefully have some conversations with some of you to talk about how you got through it, and how you got to where you're at. So if anyone's interested, let me know. Shoot me a message if you want to be on this, if you want me to interview you, or just have a conversation on Zoom or in person like we did with Ben. I think it'd be great. I think people would love to hear your story. A lot of people have been very interested to hear mine. I think my story's about to run out, and we're going to start to be in the present pages of it, which will be interesting. But feel free to reach out if this is something that you want to be a part of, and if you've got some stories to share. So with that, thanks everybody. I'm going to go in and check on my wife and see how things are going. I think I've still got about an hour until she's out of recovery. But thank you for being here with me. Thank you for letting me be myself with you, and for letting me tell my story, and for being my therapist a little bit. But thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing, and for all of the messages and the comments and all the great things that I've heard over the past couple months. I really appreciate it, and it does more for me than you will ever know. So with that, have a great day, and try to do something nice for somebody today. Thanks.